Assalamu alaikum. I want to start this next segment talking about what I mean when I say that the Muslim community in North America and actually all throughout the West has lost converts and destroyed the lives of converts. Okay, so what do I mean by destruction? And again, referring back to my previous talks, the previous videos in this series, okay, talking about the Sahaba, okay, their lives would have been destroyed if they had stayed in the condition they were in Mecca. And it was only through the Hijrah and then the solutions that they built in Medina that their lives were saved and established, and that's the only damn reason we have Islam today. Okay, so this is literally like the most important discussion in the entire community. Okay, I've laid out this is the number one most important thing in the Deen of Allah, and the Muslim community has ignored it, threw it in a dumpster, and set it on fire. Okay, so I'm going to start talking about myself a little bit, but I will talk about converts that I've known here because, I mean, I'm someone who's been in the same community for 33 years. Okay, and someone like that can tell you a history that very few people can tell you. Okay, so I became Muslim in 1987. I was 20 years old. Okay, that's a very like tender age. Okay, that's still like very young. Okay, and usually in that age is when you're transitioning towards your adult life and you're trying to put all the pieces together. Now, I grew up, alhamdulillah, with a very moral family. Okay, very, very decent people. Working class, not wealthy at all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifted me. I mean, since my mom taught me to read, I never stopped reading. So I was very good in school. I was in the gifted and talented programs all the way through, made good grades, made high scores on my college entrance exams, and earned myself a merit scholarship to go to college. Now, I was also an athlete. Okay, baseball, basketball, track, cross country, football. Okay. And so, I mean, by the time I was 20 years old, I had had over 20 girlfriends. Okay. Most of them were cheerleaders. Half of them are millionaires today. One is very high in politics in Oklahoma. One is very high in politics in Utah. And one is at the executive level at Bank of America Corporation. Okay. Now, obviously, I mean, I would have easily been married, easily. Okay. But after becoming Muslim now, from 33 years, I've spent 22 years without being married because the Muslim community has nothing for converts. And I know that I've heard 10,000 times, marriage is half the deen. Well, anybody saying that, you need to go find out what's been going on with converts because half of the converts around right now are not married, and that's a huge problem. Okay, you've got people who already lost so many of our social relations, and then we're just going through life alone. Okay? So now, talking about some of the other converts I've known. You know, when I moved to Arlington, there was an African-American brother here. He'd been a Muslim a couple of years. And he stayed around for like another year and gave up and left. You know, because, I mean, it's like there's nothing there. There's nothing in the community to sustain him socially, you know. And when you aren't sustained socially, then what's going on with you emotionally? You know, and when you can't get married, and when you're alone, and, you know, I mean, and economically, how does a human being go through this life alone? You can't. Okay? But that's exactly where so many converts are. Okay? Another brother converted a few years after me. I'm not going to say his name. You know him. Okay? And he was latched onto by a problematic sector of the community, and they brainwashed him. And now he's like an international leader, and he's screwing up the heads of so many Muslims and so many converts because he's been made into a celebrity. The guy never studied Islam, and he actually is not even, you know, a Sunni Muslim. Okay? But it's because there was nothing there. The right program wasn't there. There's nobody looking out for converts in the community. Nothing. Zero. Okay? A few years after that, there's an African American brother, very sweet guy, and he was very diligent about his Islam, very committed. Eventually, after the years of loneliness, the brother, like so many of us, went into depression, anxiety, severe mental decline, mental health issues, and ended up basically disabled. I mean, I think he lives, you know, he does like part-time work, and I mean, he basically lives on disability. That's how, you know, and that's not the same brother that I knew when he was young. He was very energetic, you know. There was a brother that I knew who became Muslim probably around 95 or 95, okay, late 94, 95. And we had his janazah in 96. He was murdered because there's nobody in the community looking out for anybody, okay? Now, I've known half of the converts, and especially now I'm talking about, you know, men are blocked out. Like from marriage, good luck, okay? The community has built a wall between men and women. The convert doesn't have a Muslim family. And the so-called Muslim brother is an absolutely useless piece of shit. There's no point in even knowing them, okay? So, I mean, you know, okay, go find your wife. You know, figure it out. I don't know. Until now, 33 years, I don't know how, because nobody's ever, you know, told me, okay? But so many convert women then got into bad marriages because there's not a system. Converts are desperate and make bad decisions and jump into marriages that turn out bad. And so divorce is very high. I'm going to say probably about 90%. Extremely high. Okay? I've known converts, so many homeless or in and out of homelessness, and especially those of us who are very diligent about studying and learning our deen. Okay? Because we do that alone. There is no support. And you're alone anyway. And mashallah, not married. And mashallah, no friends around. And mashallah, a Muslim brother is useless. And mashallah, the masjid is useless. But the convert is so committed to deen that I've known people living in their cars while they were studying Islam. Okay? I know a brother here in DFW, and the last I knew of him, he had spent 2 years living in his car. Okay? And not just living in his car, but living in his car parked in the masjid of the parking lot, and the goddamn people running the masjid won't let him, sleep inside. Because today's so-called Muslims are not only completely out of Islam, but honestly these days don't even know how to think like humans. Okay? And I mean, especially you daisies. This is a known problem. It's a part of your culture that you don't have empathy for anyone but yourself. Okay? And maybe your immediate family. It's a known social psychological issue. It's a known cultural issue that daisies have serious problems with empathy. Okay, so I've got to cut off here. Assalamu alaikum.